Hi, everybody. This is Anthony Burrows for Life and Finances with Sacrifice and Service. Now, today I want to talk about, with September being the back to school month, private school fees. Should you pay those fees? Private school fees, to pay or not to pay? A lot of persons are suffering now through this pandemic. You have a lot of job losses. Probably, I think it's now has dropped some down to about 40% of the workforce are unemployed. Many persons are still under NIB assistance. A whole heap of persons are still getting social services, aid, and then the food assistance group, they are still providing for a lot of people. Now, most private schools have already resumed as of the 7th, which would have been last week, and some are still going to open later on this week. And then the government schools will commence on the 5th. Of course, everybody will be remotely online. We find a lot of places, some places are using Skype around the world. Some are using Zoom, which is most preferred here in the Bahamas. And then you have some using the Cisco WebEx. Now, the thing for parents now, their contention is that, hey, if my kids are at home unsupervised and they're online, hey, my fees should be reduced. That's the primary contention. And what has the parents' concern also is that with the children being at home totally unsupervised is a challenge for them. So they're of the opinion, hey, schools don't have that same overhead. And some of their arguments that I've heard from parents are like, hey, if my child is home, using my water, flushing my toilet, all of my electricity with that AC, my Wi-Fi, my internet, my computer, and then of course consuming a lot of food. Now, a lot of cry also is that, hey, the schools don't have to worry about security and they don't have to worry about maintenance, cutting the grass and all of the different things. This is what some of the parents are saying. And so they're of the opinion that, hey, my fees should be reduced. So the question for you is, should you pay those private school fees? Let's look at some data as we go around. Data tends to explain things, make it a little clearer. And what I like to say, it reveals the behind the scenes story and help us with our decision making. Now, of course, people in position of power, a lot of times data mean nothing to them. They'll request, they'll look at it, throw it in file 13, and then they go with what's popular, satisfy the crowd, and how they could retain power. You see, the future means nothing to them. But let us look at some data. Now, the number of public schools, or we should say government schools, as a lot of people refer to them, in the Bahamas is 167. That's for high schools, junior high, primary, and all age. And I can recall at a short stint in Eleuthera, being at an all-age school. When I went in there for the very first time coming out of Nassau, to see a building, just a large room, and different classes are in that same room, and there's no wall, no partition, no nothing to separate them. That was very surprising for me. Now, we have approximately 300 daycare centers and preschools, and they are vital for the existence of our economy because parents drop their children off there as they make their way to work and then collect them again after work. So daycare centers are vital. I was passing the other day and about 2 or 3 daycare centers, from what I could see, they appeared to be open. So that's interesting. Now, the single most important aspect or resource, I should say, for the schools are the teachers. And we have public schools / government schools, they have 2,700 teachers. And private schools have approximately 1,000 teachers and administrators. I couldn't get the exact number, so that's what it worked out to. And we know the sole purpose for schools is the teaching of students because they are the valued treasure and customer. They are the future. Now, government schools have 46,000 students. Private schools have 19,000 students. And I guess that's because you have to pay. And a lot of persons, in some cases, don't want to pay, and then some just can't afford to pay. So it always comes down to dollars and cents. Now, private schools, their students make up about 30% of the student population. and the private school gets a subvention. And this is government gives them what's allotted for them this year is $15 million, and it's supposed to go primarily for salaries. And because government just can't absorb 65,000 students right overnight and kind of handle those. But if you were to put their mind to it, they probably could, but it's just how would you do it? But our system as it is, I guess they're saying it isn't broken, so they're not going to fix it. The subvention actually, to my surprise, started from in 1856 and continues to this day and constantly just increases each year by small percentages. Now, the Department of Education, this is the department that's responsible for all of the schools and everything to do with schools and education. Their salaries that they have budgeted $150,349,102 for salaries, and that makes up 11.3% of the budget. Now, when you put the ministry also with them, then they are going to make up about 15% of the budget. And let's look at some teachers' remuneration. Entry level is someone just coming out of University of the Bahamas or a university from abroad and become a teacher. The starting salary is $25,000 per year, and the average teacher earns an income of $30,000 per year. So 30 might sound high, but man, that could be decimated in a minute, giving our standard of living and all of that, and the cost of living. Let's look at some fees now in the Bahamas. You have like St. Andrews and Life at Key. They are $6,000 per term, so you're looking at $18,000 a year. And you have QC at $2,000 per term, which is like $6,000 per year, which isn't bad. You have SAC at about $1,700 per term, which is just under $4,000 per year. And you have Bahamas Academy, Temple, Nassau Christian, they're around $1,200 per term. That's $3,600 a year. And the average private primary school in the vicinity of $1,000 to $1,100 per term. Now, when we look, let's compare this to some U.S. prices. The average school, high school private in the U.S. is in California. Well, the average in the U.S. actually is at $11,000 per annum for high schools, and then for primary schools it's just under $10,000 a year. But if you look at some state by state, we'll look at two states. California in the United States, that's on average $20,000 per term, and then Connecticut, $35,000 per term. So wow, you see education cost. Now let's look at some advantages of being this online. First and foremost, you don't have to do the dropping and picking up. That saves you a lot of time and wasted resource, and you also have to keep your gas money and all of that. So no purchase a uniform, no need for lunch money. You don't even have to buy books. Everything can be gotten online. No need for PE clothes. The thing I like about it is that there are more options when they're teaching online. They could use videos, graphics, interactive programs, and I like this one called Kahoot. Some of the younger people will know what it is, but it's a tremendous interactive program. Can also build confidence because now you're not in a classroom where a child could elbow you or give you that look. So it's less intimidating, so they can ask more questions. And then a wonderful thing I like is that they can easily record the session and watch it later. Then the parents get a good glimpse, if they are at home or not out looking for a job, to observe the teacher in action. Oh boy, but some of the disadvantages, you got to depend on BPL, Bahamas Power and Light. And if you have to depend on them, you know that's trouble. Then we got to depend on that internet reliability. And our speed is like, phew. So in terms of the bandwidth and getting service, we are in trouble in regards to some of that. Then you have some teachers who aren't comfortable with the technology. And then a situation like this is if a child is behind, it can be difficult for them to catch up. But you have a lot of resources. You have YouTube, the Khan Academy, and different things online. But it all comes down to parental involvement. That's the real thing. Now, let's look at some proof of if you're spending your money for children to go to school. Now, when it comes to scholarships, there are approximately 4,000 applicants a year. And out of that, 3,650 of them are from private schools, and 350 are from government schools. And of that 350, only 250 actually meet the criteria for a scholarship. So you have private school students who make up 31% of the student population. They actually get 91% of the scholarships. It's like, wow, so I guess the subvention is a wise investment. Then when you look at the BJC results, students now passing, you have actually applicants, 11,000, just over 11,000 applicants. But students passing 5 subjects with C or better, that's like 1,600 of them, and that's 13%. Now, students passing English, math, and science together with a C or better is 1,500. And here's the catch here. Boys are 50% behind girls in getting A's, but the boys are 40% ahead of the girls in getting U's. And I guess when you look at a Majesty's prison, that's reflective of it. Now for the BGCSE, you have just over 6,000 persons take the exam, but you have 72% of those are from private schools and 39% are from public schools. Now persons getting 5 subjects with C or better, that's like 806 of those, which is about 12%. The subject that they take the most would be English, biology, math, and religion. I guess that's those who are going to be doctors, nurses, and teachers. Now, the subjects that's less taken are art and design, auto mechanic, and clothing construction. The thing with those ones is that you can immediately come out of school and begin making a living. But it always comes down to dollars and cents and parental involvement. With the parental involvement in the private schools, you can see at PTA meetings, private schools are full, government schools, they're empty. And then children tend to get a real-time feedback, and the parents can get a real-time feedback going online, checking grades and things of that, and check for various comments. One thing I find with the private schools is that teachers tend to duck parents, and I guess because parents can be a nuisance. But looking at the BJC, the BGCSE, and the different aspects, especially with the scholarships and what have you, folks, the decision should be crystal clear. If you are in a position, even if you have to scrape and scrap, to have your child in the private school and the private school system, go ahead and pay those fees. If you are not in the position to put them there, and you have no choice but to put them in the public system, become involved. So until next time, may the God of heaven bless and prosper you.